Good morning, dear students. Hope you are all taking your studies seriously and watching the videos carefully and noting down your classwork in your classwork copy very carefully. Now, today we will start the new chapter, and the name of the chapter is I Knew a Man by Sight. This is chapter number 4 and it's a poem. I Knew a Man by Sight is a poem by Henry David Thoreau. It describes how the poet gradually gets to know a stranger and later becomes his friend. Before he was the stranger, before both of them were strangers, and then afterwards they became friends. The poem is divided into 6 stanzas. Each stanza describes a new stage in the poet's relationship with the stranger. The poem begins with the poet telling us that he has been seeing a man every day passing by his door. For over a year, at the end of the 5th stanza, the poet is the man's bosom friend. The last stanza is a philosophical musing on the relationship of every person on the earth with everyone else. As usual, I'll first read the whole poem for you and then afterwards I'll explain stanza by stanza. I knew a man by sight, a blameless wight, who for a year or more had daily passed my door. Yet converse none had with him. I met him in a lane, him and his cane, about 3 miles from home where I had chanced to roam, and volumes stared at him and he at me. In a more distant place, I glimpsed his face and bowed instinctively. Starting, he bowed to me, bowed simultaneously and passed along. Next, in a foreign land, I grasped his hand and had a social chat about this thing and that, as I had known him well 1,000 years. Late in a wilderness, I shared his mess, for he had hardships seen, and I a wanderer been. He was my bosom friend, and I was his. And as methinks shall all, both great and small, that ever lived on earth, early or late their birth, stranger or foe, one day each other know. Henry David Thoreau. This is a poem by Henry David Thoreau. Now let me explain stanza by stanza. I knew a man by sight, a blameless wight, who for a year or more had daily passed my door, yet converse none had with him. So as I told you in the summary about that, in the first stanza, the poet is telling about the stranger who always or who daily passes through his door, and even though as they come across each other daily, but they didn't have any sort of conversation among themselves. So here in this particular first stanza, it is given that the poet is saying that he is knowing that man, and he is a blameless wight. Blameless wight means he's you can say that a person, old-fashioned person. Then who for a year or more, for 1 year or more than that, he was passing from his door, from the poet's door. Had daily passed my door, yet converse none had with him. Means he didn't have any kind of conversation with that stranger. Now look at the second stanza. I met him in a lane. Then afterwards he met him on the lane. In the lane means on the road somewhere. Him and his cane. Cane means it's a kind of a stick which he used to carry with him, as he was the old person, old man, so that's why he needs support. So that's why he used to carry a stick, that is called as cane. Means he met that stranger and his cane on the street or on the road. About 3 miles from home. It was near about 3 miles away from his home, from poet's home, where I had chance to roam, and he used to wander there usually. And volumes stared at him and he at me. Volumes means for a long time they used to stare at each other. Means he used to stare at him and that old man used to stare at the poet. Then next third stanza. In a more distant place I glimpsed his face. From far away place he used to look at his face and bow instinctively. And what he used to do, he used to just put his head down and he used to bow him. Then started he bowed to me, and then afterwards in starting he used to bow to me, and then both of them simultaneously means together. At the same time they used to bow at each other and passed along, and then used to cross each other. Then next, in a foreign land, means it is foreign land means it is an open space, you can say, that is open field. Next, in a foreign land I grasped his hand. Then afterwards, first he used to pass from his door. They never had conversation, and then afterwards he had the chance to talk to him but didn't have any sort of conversation. Then in the third stand that is said that he just used to bow at him. This bowing action started, and then next he grasped his hand means he holded his hand, and then he held his hand, and then he wanted to say something, talk about something social things. Then Anne had a social chat about this thing and that. Many talks were there about social things, like any issue about at that time what is happening. Those kind of talking they used to have. And I had known him well 1,000 years, and he was that much familiar with that person as if he is knowing him from many years before. Then late in a wilderness means here an uncultivated and inhospitable region, means which is barren, you can say. Uncultivated, barren, it's not barren. Uncultivated means nothing is being cultivated, it's a simple field. I shared his mess. Mess means the difficult situation or confusing situation which the stranger had. I shared his mess. His mess means the difficult situation what the stranger had. He shared with the poet, and he also just listened him very carefully. For he had hardship seen, because he had seen lot of hardship in his whole life. And I a wanderer been, and he was the wanderer means he used to roam from this place to another place. He was my bosom friend and I was his, and then soon they became very close friend. And means the poet was his bosom friend, and he was also the poet's bosom friend. And as methinks shall all, as how the poet is thinking about the stranger. So the poet is trying to say that everyone must think about every stranger in such a same manner. Both great and small, even though the person is great or even though the person is small, that ever lived on earth. Whoever lived on earth, for everyone you must feel in the same way. Early or late their birth, may be possible that they might be elder than you, older than you, or they might be younger than you. Stranger and foe. Foe means enemy. May be possible that they might be stranger, or may be possible that the person might be your enemy. One day each other know. At any of your particular at any of your life's moment, you will come to know about that person. So no one should be stranger on this earth. You must know each and every one. The message of the poem is about that, about friendship. Means we should have friendship with each and every stranger. No one should be like a stranger for us. We must get familiar with the person as early as possible, and so that we can share our hardship, or if you want to share our joy, we can share that also. This is what there in the whole poem, and answer these questions are given in the link itself. So do copy in your classwork copy. And then we have another exercise that is related to assonance. Assonance means assonance are the words which has vowel sounds, in which the vowel sounds are repeated in the line. For example, the first stanza, I knew a man by sight. I is being underlined, and again in sight I is being underlined. A blameless white, in white I is being again underlined. And had a social chat. For and A is being underlined, for had A is being underlined, and then for chat A is being underlined. About this thing and that, once again and A is being underlined, and then that A is being underlined. So there is repetition of vowel sound, so it is called as assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sound in words that occur close to one another, those who are just closely placed to one another. And then you have to do what you have to do in this exercise. You have to underline the examples of assonance in these verses. Verses means poem. Okay. Then next thing is that about Henry David. Let me tell you about Henry David Thoreau, that he was born in 1817 and died in 1862. He was an American essayist, poet and historian and philosopher, best known for his book Weldon, that talks about simple living in natural surroundings. That he has written a book that is, the name of the book is Weldon that talks, and what does it tell you about the natural surroundings. Although he never rejected civilization completely, he advocated a life that integrated nature and culture. He usually talk about nature and culture in his writings. So that is. So dear students, here I have to end this video, as I have completed the explanation of the poem I Knew the Man by Sight. And then in the next video we will see the next chapter, evolution of media, and that is how the way of communication changes as the year after year. So thank you so much. Take care.